Well, tech giants will be forced to pay news outlets for content under a new media bargaining code. The world first laws will help deliver some relief for struggling community and regional outlets by helping organisations bargain for a better deal. Joining me now is the technology editor at The Australian, Chris Griffith. It's great to see you tonight, Chris. Take us through how this particular take us through how this mandated code will work, Chris. How will it affect Google and Facebook? And what will be the main beneficiaries here in Australia to the code?
Okay, well, basically what the code does, it sets up a platform where the tech giants and the different publishers need to sit down and within that framework work out what the payment regime is going to be. So if our articles or our stories are on Google or Facebook, how much does those tech giants pay for it, and what is a fair deal? Now, it's kind of very interesting, this, because the ACCC has tried to avoid what could be a pitfall, which is that no one ever agrees to what these payments should be. What it has done is introduce what's called final offer arbitration, where if both sides don't agree, or if one side's being intransigent about it, then there will be a determination thrust upon them. And Google in particular is really campaign heavily against this. What it calls baseball arbitration. But it's an essential thing, Peter, because if you look at the history of Google in particular and Facebook, but Google, they have a legal department that's capable of delaying, going to court, causing legal action, which just delays things. And case in point is the action between Google and Oracle, which is a legal case that's been going on now for a decade in the US. So you want to have this sense of finality at the end of it, that you have to have an agreement, whether you agree to it or not.
Chris, what are the concessions that Macquarie 9 are concerned about? They were quite critical today of some of the concessions that were being put in place by the ACCC.
Okay, well, there's a couple of concessions. First of all, there's this two-way value clause where the concession is basically that while the news organisations believe they should be paid for their content on Google and Facebook, they kind of concede that they're getting the benefit of the clicks coming from Google and Facebook. Now, I kind of can see Nine's point of view about this, because basically, look at it this way. The reason people go to Google search is not to look for ads. They go there looking for content. It could be news content or other content, but they go there looking for content, and then they see the ads. So really, if Google says, because you come to our search engine, we then, are a value sending eyeballs back to you, I think is a bit of a fallacy, personally. And the other one
why is the ABC? Yeah, go ahead, mate. Go ahead.
Yeah. The other thing is that they cut down. One of the things news organisations really wanted was to be able to get notice of any algorithm changes by Google and Facebook. Now, there's been a bit of a fight about that. News organisations say that they need the predictability of knowing what's going to happen if there are changes in how their news stories are ranked or treated on those platforms. Google and Facebook's argument is that basically if news organisations know the algorithm, then the algorithm will get out and then people will be able to game it.
Sure.
But they've cut that from 28 days notice to 14. So it's a time change as well. Sorry, what were you going to say?
I was going to ask you why the SBS and ABC are party to these proceedings and the likely beneficiary when they're funded by the taxpayer.
Well, I suppose it depends on how you see it, Peter. I mean, originally they weren't going to be part of this at all, but there's been a view by the news organisations that if you're going to go for this principle, then it should apply across the board to whoever the news organisation is, whether it's local, regional organisations or the ABC, SBS. And at the end of the day, I guess ABC and SBS are taxpayer funded, which means in a way, if you don't include them, the taxpayer are giving free, if you like, news to Google and Facebook. So you need to, I mean, it's the taxpayer that loses out in that way. But it was contentious at first, but it's been one of the reasons I think this has got across the line with wide support in the Parliament on both sides.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right there. I think the Greens in particular were pretty keen to have them part of that. Chris Griffith, great to see you tonight. Really appreciate your time, mate.
Pleasure, as always. Thanks, Peter.